State your name, rank, and serial number.
Uh-oh.
Who are you?
This is Brian Caesar, OSI Inspection Services, March 29, 2018. We're doing a review of inspection.
Okay. All righty. Then we shall do that.
And there'll be two parts to this review. There's two inspectors and we split up. And that's just to remember what temperature I have the air on. Do you want to see what we're seeing?
Yeah. No, you be anywhere you want to. You go ahead and be anywhere you need
You
to.
may want to see.
I don't want my butt in that.
It won't be. He zooms in on the thing. I'll go on this side. You run in it. First thing I did was go for the crawl space. It's just hot this time of year and you want to get the
Sure.
physical stuff out of the way. This is on the west side of the house. I have to go back out there, by the way, and close all that up. I'm just making note, you have termite shields, these bent metal fixtures here. There's a piece of plywood right when you go in. We kind of frown on having wood in a crawl space, laying on the ground. It could be a source for termites if they wanted to come eat something that's prime meats for them. Let's see that are clean out there. I took a lot of photos. I'm just going to run through them. Looks like there's some of the original piping that's still down there, but it's been terminated. But then there's some that is still active, and that is galvanized steel. There's a lot of new PVC underneath.
Are you done? You want to go ahead and get in here?
It ain't easy down there. There's a little, what looks like a white kind of fungus down there. You probably saw some of that.
All over, yeah. Number of places.
Yeah. But, the foundation, this is called like a continuous footing around the perimeter of the home. Really look good. I didn't see any cracking. This is some of that fungus. You may want to have it treated. I don't know that it needs to be treated, but
I can give her a price on that if she wants to.
And then this is these little holes that are drilled into the mortar joints of the block there. That's for previous treatment for subterranean termites. I only saw it in the perimeter. I didn't see it in any of the piers under the.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Now this is not fungus. It was pretty common back in the day to conserve materials to use some of the wood for forms when they were pouring the foundations, and then they recycle them, and it's the subflooring. It's beneath this finished floor that we're standing on. See how it's all like randomly, and it's totally, to me that looks like concrete residue. And I just followed it. Yeah, it was a big one, a big crawl space. A lot of, like, see where these beams are? So you have several of these beams, so you have these cavities going the length of the whole home here. And I was just making notes of surface rust on the cast iron waste piping. And I didn't realize at the time when I was here, and I crawled all the way around, and I finally got to that opening. Well, you can get to that area from the back, so I kind of poked my head in there when I got there and then turned back around and finished. Good, good. This is what it meant by the old galvanized steel piping terminated.
Okay.
Where's that other one part going to? They terminated it, it still goes in the wall, right? That one pipe that's just laying there?
No, yeah, there's still some active. There's still some galvanized pipe supplying water.
So rats, right? Can come through there?
Maybe, yeah.
Because I did see a trap with a dead rat.
I saw that
Oh,
too. I didn't take a picture. I
lovely.
spared
Thanks
you
for that.
But I did take a picture of some other dead thing. This is some of the newer PVC piping, but it shouldn't be like that. It should be secured up like this one.
Okay.
And I didn't mean to do that. This one came off here, and there's another bracket further down. I tried to document all of them, but that's one of the brackets. They just snapped. They probably didn't put enough, because it's just too much load on the few that were there. I would recommend.
You're gonna send us a
That's
report
going to be.
anyway,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's
So-
going to say that should be resecured properly.
Okay.
And skip ahead. This is when I first started to notice termite. These are droppings. And then looked up. I couldn't get a good picture, and then I moved, and it's coming out of here. Someone's already been there and probed that and broke it open. If that's kind of how I was looking at it. I don't know why the camera did that. And the other side of that plank didn't show any, so it's pretty localized. This is where some of the new PVC pipings penetrated the floor. Another spot where I saw the termite droppings, but then when you looked up, you couldn't really see damage there. They're in there, or they were in there, and there's just little pinholes that they kicked that stuff out of. This is that area I mentioned when I got here. I realized there was an access back here, and thought I should document that. I didn't notice that. It looks like an actual hole in that
Yeah.
pipe, but I didn't see any water or moisture, and I had everything running. I had all the water flowing before I went under and left it flowing. So termite damage above that access, and then later on when I went in the other access, you could see another angle on it. There's some kind of carcass of something. I don't know what it was. There's none identifiable. New PVC waste piping. My only issue with this newer waste piping is the way they supported it. Instead of strapping it to the framing, they just put the glue cans under it, which will eventually rust and disintegrate. And then at the other end, I'll show you in a second, they did this little
Oh, fancy.
thing. That looks like some kind of workout tool thing with a plank on a round tube. I kind of frown on that too. You should have strapping, and then later
Okay.
I've taken pictures of straps. That's just to show you that's how they should have.
And what is that called again? This is,
This is waste piping.
Okay,
So
waste
when you
piping.
flush the toilet or the shower water, whatever is going through there.
Do we want to let this guy do his review so he can get out of here?
Okay, he's been here a while.
Yeah, it's up to you, Brian, I don't care. I was here late, you could do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
but,
be
I
a
mean,
while.
we'll be another half hour
Yeah.
with this, so,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah, then I'll do that, Brian.
See, look how
Okay.
he looked out
I
for
need
you.
information on who's who. You're the buyer, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you and your agent is who I need the information, so I can send you the WDO
okay.
after it's completed.
WDO is wood destroying organism, so it's, because he's not just looking for termites, he's looking for any kind of, wood eating creature in
I don't
addition to
have his
mold,
email
wood
on here,
rot,
but I
fungus,
have hers.
anything like that, anything that
Have this?
damages wood.
Oh, this is yours?
90 ones, but I thought you could
Take a
copy it
picture.
or take a picture of it.
Yeah, like a big shot.
I don't have your email on it.
No?
No.
Okay.
Oh, you know why? I think they must have assumed I have it because we've worked with you before.
Mm.
That ain't gonna
I
help
can
you.
give it
That's
to
just
you.
all about the house.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks for nothing.
All right, you're welcome.
So yeah, I'll get a piece of, we'll write all that down. $90,
Okay.
okay? I'll go over a little, there's no live activity here,
Okay.
but lots of drywood damage, what we call galleries. I didn't go digging in them because the agent told me that this house is under contract with Terminex up till now, so for drywood termites. If it wasn't, I would have dug some, but I don't want to, would be ridiculous for me to go digging looking for worms. Did a little digging underneath and there was no worms, no live activity,
Okay.
no wings found. A little bit of frass on one window, but it was more of a frass that falls from, because that frass stays in your
That's
house
termite,
forever.
that's termite poop.
Termite poop, yes.
Thank you.
And it's in your walls forever, so when the house shakes a little, you might see some shakeout periodically.
Okay.
But then again, I'm gonna recommend that you get all the paperwork for your transferable warranty. That's the key word, that's gonna be said here.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm gonna give you prices. You call me and I'll give you prices for treatments and whatever.
Okay.
I wanna see, but right now, no activity.
Oh, great.
As soon as you walk in this place, you see the drywood damage, like the front door right away. It's in he almost ate half of the door. Why they waited so long to do a fumigation, I have no idea. But anyway,
Okay.
And throughout all the floors as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although this is probably, I'm just guessing, I would guess that this stuff is older.
I
You think?
believe it's older on top of older.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And they drilled through. I didn't see much damage in the floor itself, the floor wood.
Yeah, the structure.
And I
looks
did a
good.
lot on my back.
Me
Yeah,
too.
there's nothing under there.
I was looking.
There's not, except that there was an area that someone dug out. But otherwise, this is all, it must have came in right through this area here and worked its way
Yeah,
through.
yeah, because it's a straight line progression.
It sure is. Why they didn't do something, I guess they tried, I didn't even see a lot of drill marks where they tried to attempt at one time.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, what was the amount?
90.
Thank you.
So I can release this. Now you want one too, or you?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so,
That's the one.
that's me. I gave, your partner was just here, right? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one for, that's me. And I have this.
That's it.
And we send this,
Right there, lubinteam@gmail.com.
It's J.D. Smith.
J.D. Smith.
Do I have to put the pest control part too? On there? Okay.
Going back to the wood fungi,
Mm-hmm.
we can treat that if you want. I mean, the one area I'm more concerned than any was the area where there was a big major leak at one time.
Big major leak.
Yes, they replaced the wood, right? It was something went on there.
I think it's that bathroom, though. The
Yeah.
flooring there,
Replaced.
all of it, it's been redone.
Okay.
So on the outskirts of it, you do have some wood,
Okay.
white
What
fungi.
is that exactly? Like
It
just-
eats at the wood.
Okay.
Takes time.
Okay.
But it really, if it doesn't continue to, the fact that the moisture's always gonna be there,
Yeah.
and what it is it's a chemical that they get under and spray the whole damn thing is what I would recommend.
All right.
If you go
Yeah,
ahead
if you
after
could
you
give us
buy
a.
it. Yeah, I'll do
Yeah,
that.
let's see for
Who's this?
that. Do you need my
Yes, I did. I made another one.
email address?
I do.
Okay. Do you want me to write it on?
Yes, I'll get that. But you can put it right behind your card.
Okay, cool.
And your name, and your everything, because this is under your rodents. I seen some dead rodents underneath, and traps. He was under there for a while. After you buy the house, you get this and you call me and I'll come back and we'll go through all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay, I see they did do some blocking, but there's some pipes I want to get down there and see where they lead to, because they could be coming up the pipes, and the exclusion on the exterior is not going to make a difference until I find out that none of those pipes are still connected to the underground. But they have definitely a lot of rodent activity
Yay.
upstairs.
Okay.
In the
But,
attic?
huh?
In the attic?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's current or not. I mean, the only way to find out is to do a tester with a couple of traps and to do some exclusion around here, like the openings
Okay.
that we open, maybe make a better closures and things
Okay.
like this. Everybody deals with rodents in their yard, they just happen to get here at one time or another
Sure.
through.
What else do you need?
That's it.
Okay.
Uh,
My husband is Paul. I'll just his right
Yeah.
name, just in case you end up talking to him at some point.
You have an amp issue.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay. One-time service on ants, I give you that too. But again, that's pest control. I'm not gonna put it on this
Okay.
thing. But you call me and I'll come back out and we'll discuss these things.
Okay.
These are all common things. I mean,
Okay.
things happen, especially if the house was empty for a while.
Sure.
And Brian found carpenter ant nest, right? Didn't you see a nest somewhere? Did you disturb
I
it
don't
or
know if
just
it's
saw a
in-
couple
I guess
of
you call it
ants?
nest, it was in the window frame in this
Okay.
back bedroom. I
Come in
took
that
it
dirt on the bottom or the frame itself?
In the frame, you open the window, whoop, there they are,
Okay.
inside the bottom.
You need to
I've seen that
screws.
before.
Or anything like that?
They're all over the place. They do nest in your eaves.
No.
You gotta clean up.
Okay.
It's part of it.
Hard for,
Nothing chemicals wouldn't take care of our
Right.
pest control service.
Okay.
Okay?
can I get a glove?
All
Let
right.
this guy finish, because I respect my elders. Okay, let it go.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
So bottom line, no live activity.
That's a good thing.
Brian, thank you so much for your
All right, you're welcome.
assistance.
I'll try.
Well, you do. These guys are like.
Must be standing right under the vent. Where
No,
is
it's-
the
I
vent?
think the
Oh, it's
fan is
right there.
probably
No, I
on,
think
so-
it's the vent from
The
the
fan's not
All
helping.
right.
Nice to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Tony.
All right, my pleasure.
All right.
No, I think it's coming from over here. It's all right.
Are you standing in a cold spot?
Cheers.
Yes, it's cold right here. It's fine.
We can retool
Or I
over
can-
this side.
I
if
have
you
it
want.
cranked down, I could back it off too.
We can back it up
Okay.
just a hair. I know
Or,
that.
look, let's do this. Let's move it over to this corner, and that way you're out of the wind. Better?
At least we know that works. It's not going to be glare for you, is it? It doesn't
Nope.
look like there is any on the
Nope,
screen.
nope,
Okay.
Right. So we spoke about that, then this pipe goes to the right, and then it's not, these are not conventional straps, these are zip ties. And
Yay.
that's a substandard way to anchor them up.
Okay.
You need some form of strapping, there are straps designed for plumbing to be attached to it.
Okay.
And then it continues on and goes through this wall cavity over here. And there was another pipe sort of like that in another location. That's, I didn't understand what Tony was talking about. There is a piece of like cast iron black piping that's been broken off. It's no longer in use, but it is open and he didn't know where the other end of it is. So it could be just a little highway for him to come on in.
Little highway. Okay.
And then this is under the bathroom, and that side of the house appears to be a converted garage space.
Yeah.
And the bathroom is elevated, and there's just a little cavity you can kind of see in. It was hard to get between the flashlight and the flash to get it and look under there, but it looks all dry from what I could see. And there was just a little broken block along that wall. I don't know what the cause of it is. The other side of that. Overall looks good. Still, like you said, in different places you see that white fungus in
Okay.
different spots. And then when you see all this is like a creosote coating on all these floor joists, then you see one that looks brand new. It's like a sistered on piece of wood to strengthen it. We'll get there in a minute. And all these pipes that don't have support, they're like pulling, it's like pulling that whole piece.
Okay.
And there's where that piece of wood was sistered on, and then beyond it, there's new flooring. You have dimensional lumber here, but then beyond it where the flooring's been redone, what he was talking about extensively, redoing the moisture damage, that's with plywood. These are sheets of plywood. And I just took pictures of like everything down here. And like showing where you have galvanized steel connected to PVC. So the good thing is the only galvanized steel I've seen is been below the home. It's not up coming out of the walls into plumbing fixtures, and that could have been an insurance issue. I still have to check the box. It says you have it, but it's under the house.
Okay.
And then there's some straps. This is what we wanted on the hose
Okay.
piping, real strapping. And, I'm not sure how this worked. There's a supply line going up through the floor, but then this galvanized steel one looks like it was designed to be the one going through originally, and it's been cut.
Okay.
Right, it's Campbell as another tool.
I don't know how to explain what they did.
It might
Same
be-
thing, just another angle. Another bracket for the piping broken off. Another hole. This is another section of it.
Okay.
It goes all the way out the front. It's the whole section, so it's the middle back and this middle front. This needs to be all resecured properly. So that one really snapped off. And then that's another one, another like 6 feet away. And I just zoomed in on them instead of crawling up to them. And work my way up, across, back. I go counterclockwise under there. I'm just kind of taking pictures of these little lines. It looks like at some point moisture got under the house. I don't think there's any moisture issue under the house. It is dusty dry under there, bone dry. The only spot there was a little moisture was right at the access point on this side, and we'll get to that in a minute. And let's see. I always like wildlife pictures, yes. They like coming in here, they're all hanging out, cooling off, waiting for the next feeding. So now I've gotten all the way to the front corner and I'm looking back this direction towards the bathroom area. And bathroom. You can kind of see all the new flooring. And nothing was leaking. Straps, these are the straps.
Okay.
Not zip ties. And not cans and pipes. And pieces of wood.
Oops.
He could have done a better job when he was 10 years old and that stuff. Let's see. This is just depicting all, they redid the floor in the bathroom. There must have been a toilet leak, I'm thinking, and it was pretty extensive. They redid the whole subfloor to lay that tile down. But it looks great now. It's again, like you're jumping around up in here, you can jump all over that. I'm not saying do it, but you could. And then this is the only place where there's a little moisture, and you can kind of see, not in my picture, but you can tell the way that earth was, water flowed in from outside. And it's just debris. And you'll see these again. You'll have all these photos if you have any questions. And it's under the toilet. These are usually notorious for leaking. No leaks. And I got out, went to the other access, opened it up, and all that crap out of the way. There's not much happening in there. I didn't notice it at first. I started doing the same kind of thing. I took pictures of the termite shield. Well, whoever put this frame around that opening damaged the termite shield a bit at the outer edge. And the termite shield is to prevent subterranean termites. They make tubes and they mount them on the wall, and then if that metal shield is there, they can't get directly to the wood. That's not 100% foolproof though, either. I've seen it happen. And I think everything under here was good except this one pipe, and I'm not sure where it's going to. It may be supplying the fridge with water, but it's loose.
Oh,
So that should get re-secured too, and that's again a galvanized steel connected to PVC.
okay.
Did you want to see that, sir? I'm pretty sure it's going to the fridge, based on where I was located. And then there is a strap there that may have been attached to that. I don't know. It doesn't seem long enough. Let's see, there was just abandoned severed wire down there. More straps. And there was an open junction box down there. This box should have a cover over it, and then the wires should have cable clamps on them, or wire clamps.
Oh, so I heard something before too, and I was like, what? What else?
And
is
like I said earlier, there's just a reverse shot of this. You've seen it before.
Okay.
And that was it. Another wildlife
Thank
shot
you.
for you. I know you like those. And then that's the termite shield. I noticed
Okay.
it on my way out that it was cut back. It should have done the same thing on the other side. And I came into the living room. You have ungrounded outlets. When you see two-pronged outlets, they're ungrounded, and that's okay. But when you have three prongs, that's when I brought out the stickers. Pretty much that side has several of them.
Okay.
Only over there?
I didn't have any on this side that were ungrounded, three-prongers. Most of them on this side are two-pronged, sorry.
And
So
when you
no
say
need to
this,
put, if it's two-pronged, it is what it is, it's an ungrounded outlet. But if it's three-pronged or three holes in them, that indicates it's a grounded outlet and it's testing ungrounded. So somebody swapped them out at some juncture. They're not the original outlets.
these two, are there more beyond
In
these
that
two?
bedroom, this room,
The garage bedroom.
so pretty much that whole wing of the home. What about the bathroom?
The bathroom is wired correctly, and so does the laundry room outlet.
Okay, so every one we found has a sticker on it, but I think it's all open grounds, nothing, no.
No.
And then I just was making note of all the flaws in the flooring, little spots, which is really hard to photograph that stuff. Did the air conditioner, you got the air handler, right? I got the return and the supply.
I don't know if I got the air handler. I don't know if I got the return temperature.
I did.
I did the data for
Well,
it.
let's see, down in the hallway, this is the return vent right here in this hallway.
Right.
You may want to budget for a new grill.
Yeah.
It looks
It
nice,
looks
just
little.
photograph I was afraid to touch it, just because it looked like I would never get it back in. And that's
Yes,
happened
that's-
before, so I
yeah.
just don't wanna spend
Sure.
15 minutes trying to make it stay in place. But I would invest in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we have perfectly fine differentials. Work my way into that room. Most of the doors that I saw in the house don't have stoppers on them, so they don't
Okay.
hit the
Right.
wall and damage them. This is what a typical ungrounded outlet looks like, 2 prongs. And stain, that's a little stain in that bedroom floor. That window, take a picture of that window. Oh yeah, because there's some cracks in the sill.
Okay.
Nothing unusual though. That closet, before we get to the closet, I noticed there was a ceiling cracking in the ceiling. That's very typical. And then in like the transition there, or the hallway, there's pretty good cracks in the plaster. And Peyton was up there in the attic and asked him, what's above that? And it's kind of like where the roof lines intersect. So to me, it seems like it's just a stress point on the house. And it's really difficult to make it go away and then stay away. And then the doors, I would have gotten smaller doors personally, but they kind of overlap each other. They were too big. Bathroom, again, no
Yeah, I
stopper.
noticed that when I was in there.
I believe everything in there was fine except the corner grouts. There's just hairline cracks in the crowding.
Yeah.
A bunch of photos of that. Glass block. This toilet's fine. Piping secure. All this is good. No leaks. Valves are fine. There's just there's
Yeah.
stains, water, people come out. The fan works fine. Hairline crack in the ceiling in that closet where the water heater is. There's the original electrical panels in here. It's now just a junction box, so you do not need to open it. It is screwed shut and it should stay that way. Above it is the old doorbell transformer. I didn't see a switch for a doorbell outside though. And just made note of it. And then the water heater itself, it's in a pan. The pan's not much good unless the pan has a drain too. So the pan goes nowhere. It goes on the floor. There should be a drain to like at least let it discharge under the house so you wouldn't damage all your flooring.
Okay.
You may have a little flood under the home, but that would do a lot less damage than to the floor would absorb. And then the water heater's fairly new. It was June 2015 it was manufactured, and it's a 40-gallon electric. Everything else on it is okay. I have no issue with any of this other stuff. Bedroom, there's just a little stain in the ceiling.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was in there too.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The doors were off the track in that room.
Okay.
Ungrounded outlets, but they're on 2-prong. Screens bent. There's the carpenter ants, and then there they are down in the track. Well, I took one and they came out those 3 or 4, but then when I went back to get a picture with all their little eggs and crap, they were scurrying all over the place. That was like that. In case it was broken, I just wanted to document it. But as soon as I touched it, it's okay. It's not broken. Kitchen, dispensers work. Ice, water, light, the whole range works fine. There's no vent out, so you just have a recirculating style vent. The water, the microwave also worked. The GFCI, along with the switch for the disposal, when I pulled the tester out, the whole outlet moved in and out.
Okay.
That's kind of what.
Oh, okay.
Broke the line of the truck and it would hit the
Good,
side.
okay.
And then the guy would stop.
Yeah, Lance was doing a story about the guy in the truck and he threw a money bag at him.
There you go, immortalized.
Sink, everything was good with the sink, the disposal worked fine. The only issue I believe I found under here was the disposal wire. Again, like under the house where the wire's going in that metal box, same thing applies here, but this is more significant because you go into the sink almost every other day or whenever, you can touch this wire and it'll eventually chafe on the metal and get damaged, so it should be secured. Ideally, it would be in a conduit, so no movement of the wire, but at the very least, it should have a cable clamp on it. Everything else under there is fine. The oven, bake, broil worked. All the GFCIs in here worked. Refrigerator was fine. Dishwasher's fine. The outside light worked. The switch is right behind you next to the fridge. And you have GFCI even over there, which I don't believe you need it that far away from the water, but it's still good. And you got pretty good significant damage in the flooring next to the fridge. Worked my way through that. I didn't do the dining room, but I pretty much saw more damage in front of the threshold in front of it. Went in that back room. I wasn't sure what these one switch was for. It turned out it's for the outlet below it, so that's it before turning it on, and after turning the
okay.
switch on, you can put a lamp or something like that. There's no outlet on this one wall. I don't know if you, it's kind of a nice little nook to put like a little mini desk or something. You may have to add one if you want that. But that room, all the outlets in there are ungrounded,
Okay.
are all labeled. The dining room, all those outlets are ungrounded. And then on that eastern window, I saw, I think Tony mentioned it, the frazzes from
Okay.
termites that, you know, when you slam the door, like you said, or you get a thunderstorm, and there's any kind of vibration in the structure, old frass is going to fall out of these little push-out holes. Kick-out holes is another name for it. And then these were loose, which you probably, you didn't need me to tell you that
Yeah.
one.
Right.
There you go. I think that was my last thing, and now I'm going to turn it over to Peyton, and he's going to do the exterior and the roof and the attic.
First thing I did was just check out the driveway. I didn't know if you were lined up. I just moved it slightly. A couple of cracks, nothing to worry about really. I believe I did the roof next, or did I go into the porch area? Nothing there. I did the French door. Before I did this, I noticed the roof is sort of sagging out there. It isn't me sort of manipulating it. Did the French doors. Again, I just wiggled some of the boards. I just took a picture of how they sort of wired the carriage lights. I've just never really seen that done where they sort of snaked it through the
Secure the
board.
crawl spaces.
Paul doesn't like those lights anyway, so those suckers are coming down, I think.
And then the wrought iron, it's just wear
Oh,
and tear.
that's gonna get, yeah, we
Taken
already
out.
know we're gonna change
Alright,
that.
that's
But I
good.
think it's structural, isn't it? So we're gonna, he was talking about,
I
like,
think
we're
this
gonna-
beam is
we're gonna wrap it, I think, like we did at our house on
like
8th Avenue.
frame it in or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And yeah, it's just sort of peeling and weathered
yeah,
in
it's
areas.
yucky.
Went out to the front again. I go clockwise, Brian goes counterclockwise, so I started at the front entrance and went all the way around to the right door jamb. Just sort of documenting how they like flashed this area, which was fine. I just was kind of showing how they did it. I didn't really know if that was professionally done, but it looks like it's doing its job. I saw a couple little areas of wood rot when I probed around, and I didn't want to like stick the screwdriver through the wood there, but there was a tiny little areas of softness at these corners of the roof line, which is really common, and it was like really limited to maybe like half an inch little strip here. I think that they've already come and sort of touched up these areas already, because there was just sort of evidence that some of these have sort of been patched and painted in the past, and I started seeing little cracks in the walls. This is before I noticed that there was a garage door here at one point. And so there's just kind of a uniform outline of where the door used to be. You may want to touch up some of the windows. I kind of nitpick the windows sometimes, and
Okay.
sometimes people just want to add caulk to the perimeters
Sure.
as a precaution.
We're gonna paint the outside, so we can
Okay.
do that.
More just the outline of the old garage. Eventually I went clockwise. I did see soffit vents in some areas, and then when I looked along the side, you didn't have any vents. So usually they kind of extend around the roof line. Again, little areas of rot that I was probing. It was pretty limited to one or two little corners like this. I think the remainder of these corners, when I probed them, were all solid. There was maybe one or two that were a little soft like that. The rest, it just sort of looked like wear and tear, where the paint is just chipping. And I have videos of me trying to like break through with the probe. It's all solid. It's just sort of weathered away, and it just looks unsightly more than like it being an issue, I think. You may want to add gutters to the roof line. I think this is just rainwater splashing on the ground and it's staining the walls in the low sections. You have gutters in like a little the front porch overhang, I think, has one. You have one over this back porch overhang, but I think that's pretty much it. And then I just sort of documented, they have like this wood fascia board here, and in some areas they put like this metal over it. I just was documenting, they didn't really do that all the way around. They kind of like stop and then it goes back to wood again. I mean, ideally I would have had them add more of this around the whole thing because the metal will kind of just keep everything protected longer. It kind of just goes from metal to wood and then like back to metal as you kind of walk around.
Okay.
It sort of just varies. Metal, wood, it kind of goes back and forth. Little cracks here and there. This is all pretty typical with the block home. And usually the rule of thumb is if it's not the width of being able to fit a credit card through, then it's not anything to worry about. And none of this was displaced either, like it wasn't really sticking out or bulging anywhere. Some areas where they've repaired some of the trim with like wood filler. This is kind of a lot of what I was seeing, just like touching up and repair areas and sporadic areas. And this is kind of what I meant, like this looks rotted, but then when you try to ream on it with the probe, it's all real solid. It just looks like wear and tear and like the paint is just peeling, but I'm trying to poke holes in here and it's all solid to the touch. It just looks not so great. So I didn't really know what to make of it.
I think that's the stuff Paul was talking about.
Could be.
Yeah.
And yeah, this just looked like it was rotted, but again, it was all solid. I was really trying to like break through and I couldn't. That's just the hall shower. There may have been an addition at one point. I think that, where that lower section stops and the rest of the house begins, which is it's called a cold joint. This is like the newer section of the house here. I just pointed it out again, I think. That's pretty typical. I went to all these vents. They all had screens. I took pictures in all the vents holes. Again, this looked sort of unsightly, but it was only soft to the touch, like right in this area if you were to probe right at the crack. So I don't know if it's like the quality of wood or if the elements just over time are like splitting it and just making it chip, but
Okay.
again, it was all solid except for when you ream it right in there.
Okay.
Solid. Sitting right around this guy.
Yeah, it's just weird. It looked like it would be soft, wasn't it? More just touching up around the windows. More little cracks. Very hard to pick out. There was no swinging gate on that side, so I went around the other side where there is a swinging gate. Before I did that, I just took pictures of all these little vents to make sure the screens were intact, and every single one has a screen. None of them are broken.
Okay.
So I don't know where these rodents are getting in because everything's closed off. There was a water spigot on that side of the house, but I think they painted over it, and so I couldn't torque it open to try to test it because
Okay.
they just kind of globbed paint on it. You could probably work it open with a wrench or something. More little touching up. It's pretty nitpicky. Again, just weathering. It wasn't rotted. It was just sort of appearance-wise to me. I couldn't really tell why it was sort of chipping. It was all real solid. And then the gate is just a fixed gate, so I walked around to the other side of it and continued clockwise. More little weathering. Again, this is all real solid. It's just the paint is sort of peeling. Peeling paint. Again, at all of those little eaves, they did like a similar flashing with these little pieces of metal here. I didn't see any evidence of staining anywhere. I'm not sure if this gutter, it looks like it may leak because it's just not really flush. And then when I looked down, like directly under it, there was a little darkness there. Really common near the openings of the exterior doors, just a little rot in some of the trim, but it's just this little 1-inch section. Tiny little cracks in the back walkway. Again, that's nothing really. I thought you may want to extend this gutter so that it's not running down the steps. I didn't know. It might just be a preference. Again, just documenting how they flashed all the eaves. Kept going clockwise. I took my camera and did all the vents. Everything was intact. All the screens were present. Did the electrical panel. Made sure it was grounded appropriately. And then I saw that there was a lock at one point. I would put in the report, we usually would never say to lock the panel. You want to be able to get to it in case of emergency. So if this is locked at the closing, I would get rid of it. Everything inside the panel was fine. I didn't have any wiring issues within the panel. 200 amp maximum rating for the panel. And there was an old sticker from 2015 they inspected for wood destroying organisms. There was another sticker up in the attic that actually stated that a different company treated for termites, and I think that was disclosed as well. MJ had said a couple of years ago they treated. This was the most recent stickers I saw. Again, everything looked great in the panel. One wire and one breaker, everything was copper. Nothing was loose, nothing was oxidized.
Very good.
Everything was good. Clean. There was like a loose, there was a loose wire sort of hanging out, but when I tested it with a voltage meter, it was dead. So it's just like an old wire they sort of left in the panel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say in the report to get rid of this tree. It's sort of growing too close to the wall
Yeah.
for like more a little touching up in some of the windows.
Alright.
The unit itself is good. It's anchored down. It has locks on the refrigerant lines. Those two items are indicative that they pulled a permit for the HVAC system.
Alright.
All the insulation was intact, and as it goes up into the chase itself is sealed, so no rodents can go up into the attic. There was a tiny little piece of insulation that's come off here, and you look closely, and that's the actual refrigerant line, and this is the insulation that's wrapped around it. And if you look closely, it's just exposed a tiny bit, and this sort of sweats condensation. It'll make the system run a little less efficiently if you were to cover that up, but it's pretty minuscule. I don't know if I even worry about it. And then you want hot air coming off the unit when the AC is running. The unit itself, I believe, is from 2014. Yeah. That's pretty new. It is a heat pump system. International Comfort is the brand. There's a shut-off box for the unit, and it's still an old fuse box, which is seen as sort of obsolete technology in today's eyes. And it's not going to be an issue for insurance because it's just a sub panel. If you had this as like your main electrical panel, it was still a fuse box. It would be something that you would need to update. But I'm going to still write in the report that you should budget to update this in the future to like an actual little circuit panel with breakers on it. This is okay how it is, but whenever it needs to be replaced, I would have them switch it to an actual circuit breaker because this is sort of old technology.
Okay.
The wiring inside of it was fine, but again, it's just sort of obsolete. I went through the gate. The sprinkler system, when I got up to it, looks like it's been disconnected. They've severed the tube
Yeah,
here.
something happened to the pump, I thought she said, and something was disclosed.
Okay. And then the outlet that was out there for this power source is another GFCI outlet like the kitchen is here, although it's not working right. It's been tripped, so it's in the off position, but you should be able to push the reset button and reset it and get power to turn back on. The button is not going in. When you try to push it, it's not engaging. It's just kind of locked in place. So it's off right now. You can't use it. It's not going to produce any energy until that gets fixed. And then I left the sticker, does not function properly. And in the report, I'll have it listed where it's located. More little cracks in the walls. More touching up around some of the windows. All the screens again were intact. This was the crawl space entry Brian went into at the time. I just took a picture of it when it was open. And then again, more of the same on the fascia board. It's not rotted, it's just sort of weathered. It was all solid when you probed it, but it looks like it's been patched and painted recently, and I don't know what to say about it. But it was just sort of more staining on the walls, and then there was a crack here that was kind of easy to pick out. Some of these look like they've been patched in the past. Block window for the other bathroom. There's motion sensing lights out there. I couldn't really get them to go. They may be like light activated where you have to cover it though. I was trying to prompt it by wiggling the tester or the screwdriver in front of it. All the screens again were intact. More weathering to the trim, but it was not rotted. It was just sort of
Put the stick in there, I was just gonna walk. Sorry.
Again, I'm trying to break through, and I'm really pushing hard, nothing's happening. It was trivial. More cracks as I got to that front bedroom. Touching up the windows, common. Screens are intact. More weathering around the trim, and again, now you have metal, and then it just stops, and now it goes back to wood again. It's kind of hard to tell. They should have kept going around it.
Yeah.
How extensive is any of the rot around the soffits or fascia?
It's really minimal, actually. Like, I'd say 90% of what I saw was just peeling paint and just sort of the elements, and 10% was actual rot. It was kind of what I saw. I expected to see rot, but I was trying really hard to break through with the screwdriver, and it was all really solid to the touch.
Uh-huh.
So it looked more like the elements are sort of just taking their toll on the paint and the finish work.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk to Paul about that.
Because yeah, I have videos of me trying to really ream through it, and it's not gone anywhere.
I just know there was some initial concern about that.
Right, and it looks worse than it is when you try to probe through it. Yeah, it looks unsightly. But again, it's all real solid. It was kind of, I was anticipating it to be soft, and all of it was good. And then on the front of the house here, the front bedroom, is the main water shutoff. There was the original water shutoff that's still out there. And then there's a new one right here, which is your actual one. This one doesn't do anything anymore. I tried to open the little hose spigot, and there was no water coming out. So it led me to believe that that's been taken out of service, and your real shutoff is over here now. There's the real one. It's in the open position. I just dug some of the mulch back. And then I opened the water spigot for that one, and I got water. So that's the one that's actively going. That was all fine, just documenting how they flash the eaves. There was some sort of lip out here in the front porch, and they just like chiseled off maybe there was planters out there. Little areas. No little closing mechanism for the screen door. Brian mentioned there's 2 prong outlets inside the house. There was one out on the porch as well. The cover's just a tad loose for it. The outlet itself is fine. It's just a little plastic plate for it.
Okay.
Used. The same thing with the coach lights. Then I remembered I needed to get 4 overall shots of the house for the underwriters if they ask for it. Like all 4 corners, I tried to squeeze it in there. And then while I was walking back inside the house, the air conditioner was on, and so the air handler, which is in your attic, has a drain line for any condensation it produces. It drains outside, which is good. I just thought it drained a little too close to the house. It just kind of drains right here. You might want to add a little PVC elbow and just kind of do a couple inches kind of
Gotcha.
further from the wall. That could be a potential water source for
Sure.
termites. And then I went on the roof, which looked great. I think the most recent permit was 2001 or something, but it looked but it looked in great shape. I didn't see any real damage to the shingles. I did notice there's that tree out in the front yard that I would recommend at least trimming some of these branches that are hanging over the roof before the next hurricane season. If you get a strong enough wind, some of those branches could fall. And that'll be mentioned in the report. I went clockwise on the roof as well, so I started right at the driveway, ran along this slope over here, and across the back slope, all the way to the front again. So I'm walking on the eastern slope towards the backyard. There were these 2 plumbing stacks on the roof, and then at first glance, they looked all right. Let me get closer to them. Before I went over there, I was documenting the vent for the attic, which was fine. It just looks like something has fallen on it and has damaged one side of it. It's probably a tree. So as I walk towards the backyard, there's these plumbing stacks that I found. I don't think they're in service anymore. They have these little PVC like covers for them, because what happens is underneath this is lead flashing to keep any water from getting into the attic. And they create these extra little covers to keep the lead flashing from getting chewed on, because squirrels love to eat the lead and file their teeth on it. And so they must have had a problem with that, and they designed these little covers to protect from that. But it still was happening even though they were doing this. I took the little cover off. This is the lead flashing that they were trying to protect, but you can still see that it's been nibbled on in areas. And this can allow water to get into the attic. I didn't even realize it at this point, but inside of these flashings are supposed to be the plumbing vent for whatever fixture is down there. Like, let's say the bathroom is down there, then this would be the drain for the sink. It needs a place to actually have a air so that there's no vacuum in the drain, or else the drain wouldn't drain unless there was at least a vent for it. So when I look down in here,
Lance, you need to know about this part.
yeah, this is going to be an issue, unfortunately. So they've terminated the piping at some point. There's no pipe in here anymore, but they left this stack on the roof. So this is sort of just open right now, and I think that,
So water can get into the attic is basically what's
Okay.
happening.
right, usually there'd be a pipe leading to the whatever plumbing fixture was right below it. They must have, during whatever renovation, terminated that at some point, but they left this up here, and it's now an opening inside the attic, which water can now get into if it ever rains.
So what's the correction for that?
I would get rid of them altogether,
So sorry.
and I would either roof over them. That'd be the easiest way.
Shingle over it,
Just get rid of it right at the base and roof over it.
or put some other form of a cap on so water can't get in until the next time you get a roof. You just
Because they're not even being used anymore, so all they're really doing is creating an issue. Because it's not even doing anything. It's not venting any plumbing fixture anymore. They're taken out of service. They should have been sealed at that point.
But the easiest and most expedient thing is just capping it. I
Yeah,
would assume.
and this is really easy material to manipulate. It would be pretty quick for a roofer to kind of, and then roof over it. And unfortunately, there's two of these where that's an occurrence. There's
Right.
two, both on that eastern slope, that have these little caps that you could just take off. And then there's the lead. There's no pipe in it, which is what you would usually see. And it's also sort of bent because there's no pipe in it. So like the sun is maybe even just sort of letting it melt, and just the gravity's sort of just letting it list to one side because there's nothing to keep it straight up anymore inside of the pipe. Usually you'd see like PVC in here that it's crimped around. And that's what it looks like from the side, and there's nothing in here.
And is that a 4-point issue?
That is, because it could be a potential roof leak. And unfortunately, I couldn't tell if there was because it hasn't rained in at least several days. So I would maybe want to know after it rained, how bad is this? Is there water seeping through these areas during a rain event? Because it's difficult to tell right now. It hasn't rained in a while. And it was also really hard to see these areas from the attic. I do have photos of that
So
area.
for that reason, it would probably be better to have them taken off and shingled underneath it.
Right.
Because you can't really tell if it.
Right, to the extent of how much damage it's
Okay.
causing. It could be doing very little. It could be creating a huge issue over there. It doesn't look like it is. I was able to kind of blind fire with the
Wouldn't you
camera.
have seen it on the underside of the roof though,
Right.
if it were?
It looks like it was all right. There was a little staining, but it was more at the overhang, like at the very edge of the roof line, and hanging over the walls. It wasn't like in this area, which is actually over the attic cavity. All the decking in this area didn't look stained. So either they have remediated it in the past, maybe they have decked over it from the underneath, in which case I would still at least get rid of this because it's not doing anything. But yeah, I couldn't really tell what's happening under here from the attic, and I would just, as a precaution, it's better to be safe. Sorry, I would get rid of these so that there's no guesswork that there is any leaks going on in here. And the second one, took the cover off. Again, it's been chewed on in the past, which is why I'm guessing they created that cover, but inside there's no pipe anymore, so it's just kind of open.
There isn't even a pipe in here. This whole thing is just made of flashing. There should be a pipe that this is wrapped around, but there's not.
Yeah, I put my flashlight on it and I could see wood down there. You don't want to see wood, you want to see these, they're walls of a pipe.
And then other than that, just teeny little damage to the shingles here and there, but the roof shingles themselves look to be in great shape. But the only issue I had up there was those two plumbing vents. Everything else was great. When I was walking on it, all the roof decking felt real solid. and you actually have real dimensional lumber for your roof decking, as opposed to today they just use plywood as the roof decking. It's a lot thinner. You actually have real lumber as your roof decking, which is a lot stronger.
I thought there was some sort of leak that had been disclosed, no?
I did see one over near the chimney. I don't know if they said where it was located, but I saw evidence of a potential leak near this old chimney here.
Have the file.
I didn't notice until I got into the attic. I didn't see anything suggesting there was a leak when I looked at the roof, but when I was in the attic looking towards this area, you could see that the decking was all black. And then more roof vents that kind of got squashed in random areas. This is a roof attic vent. Underneath this is a fan in the attic, and it's supposed to turn on once it gets certain hot enough or degree in the attic. I couldn't really test it because the electrical box for it is exposed and all the wires are kind of hanging out, so I was kind of weary of testing it until it is sort of repaired. You'll see what I mean from the attic. Walked over the electrical mass, which is alright. It's just a little rusty. I would probably say in the report to just have somebody treat this rust and then paint it just to kind of extend the lifespan of it. And sort of staining on the roof. Took pictures around the flashing of the electrical mast. From when I was looking under the attic, I didn't really see any staining in this area, but I wanted to just take pictures of how it looked from the outside. And then more of the rustiness. The wires themselves, though, are intact. They're secured. They're covered. The splices as they should be. The weatherhead is nice and new. Walked over the chimney area. Which I guess there used to be like a oil heater or something.
It's not in service anymore.
Yeah, it's just. So you could even also just get rid of that if you wanted to, but it would be an extra expense to do it, but it's not doing anything. It's been taken out of service. And I just documented the flashing around there. Again, from the surface it looks alright, but under this area from the attic there's some staining around here. And the access in the attic is pretty limited. There's a lot of ductwork and insulation, and it's sort of cramped in there. There's not a lot of room to navigate the crack in the chimney. This is before I realized it wasn't even in service. This may be where that leak is coming
it's like
from.
newer.
This is sort of curling the shingles up a little bit, and it's creating this little gap. Now, normally this wouldn't be that big of an issue because it's like on the downslope, so water's going to be going this way. But you could get wind-driven rain that could sort of get blown up in there if you get like a tropical system, potentially.
It's like newer on the
Mhm.
north side.
They do, like a little newer. And this again was where I saw that staining, so maybe they sort of repaired this area in the past. This was the only plumbing stack that actually had a pipe inside of it. You see that rust color, that's cast iron pipe, and then you have the flashing going over it so that no water can get in between the pipe and the flashing. And only water, if it rains, will go down into the pipe, not in between it. And so that's what you're trying to accomplish with the other two, but there's no pipe inside of them anymore, so it's just going straight in the attic. And I wasn't really crazy about how they did the screen because they punctured holes in the flashing by doing it. And there's another little hole there. That is kind of nitpicky, but water could seep in that little tiny hole. Water can also seep in through these little screw holes that they've created. Wasn't really a fan of that. As I went to the northwest bedroom, some were just denting to the roof ridge vents, but they seem to be functioning. And all the little fastener heads were sealed up. Some of the gutters just need to be cleaned out. And just some of the debris on the roof I would get rid of. Then I went inside, and there's two attic accesses. I was going to start and do the one in the garage, but then Tony went in there, so I did the one in the hallway first. When I went up the stairs, I just looked straight up, and it looked like they had re-supported a section of the roof here with these two additional planks on either side. You can see some old staining here and there. And then when Tony was talking about some of this white fungusy stuff. This is now looking straight on the top of the ladder. I'm just looking towards the backyard. which is probably like right above us, is where the air handler is. I crawled over there. There's a couple pieces of plywood that they've sort of left as a decking, so you can sort of crawl towards the air handler. And there was a light over there. I turned it on. There's a bunch of rodent droppings on it. Everything with the system was fine. There's a float switch. Is it on?
So then, what have we got? 4-point wise, it's those unused plumbing stacks on the
East slope.
east slope that have to be
Roofed over.
removed and then roofed over. Anything else 4-point wise? And what we're talking about here is that we're talking about that document that must be provided to the insurance company to get insurance. So without that document, you can't get insurance, and we have to have everything on that document,
Okay.
quote unquote, clean.
I would
So
say
electrical
in the
wise?
crawl space down here is an open junction and the wires aren't secured.
There's 2 in the attic.
2 in the attic, plus where the fan
And are the
is.
ones in the
That's mine
attic
too.
clearly marked?
Well, one is for the attic fan right above us, and the other one is, I don't know what it's for, but it's right above the dining room. It's actually, I don't know what it's going to.
So we don't mark them in there.
I couldn't actually reach those either with the sticker. With the ceiling fan one I could, but
If you can't reach it with a sticker, is somebody gonna be able to reach it to?
right, that's what I
cover it?
was thinking about. This one over the dining room, I honestly don't know how they're going to get to it. They can get to the attic fan one, but I don't know how they're going to get to the one over there.
Well, if it can't be accessed, then
And it
what
wouldn't
do we
be-
do?
Yeah, then
So maybe just bring up the attic fan
you won't
and
have to
make sure.
necessarily, if it's not gonna, no one can touch it, no one can get shocked by it or damage the wire, so you wouldn't necessarily have to. In the crawl space, granted, nobody goes down there very often, but if someone did, it is exposed.
Mhm.
The wire for the disposal is not secured into the body of the disposal. And then it may in the future cause a leak. The plumbing piping, the newer piping is not properly secured under the house.
Uh-huh.
And then the one that goes of a leak to the refrigerator is totally loose.
Right, so those things you just mentioned are going to be cited on a 4-point,
Right.
correct?
And even the plumbing stack over here had a tiny bit of damage. I would maybe, if they're gonna do those, you might as well.
That just needs some sealant.
Is it possible for you on this report to mark those things that are 4-point? I mean, can you?
On the
summary-
inspection report?
We
Yeah.
can just say they may delay you getting them, we can't just say these are definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, could those things be marked somehow, starred or checked? or-
Yeah, and the way that I usually word it is it's usually a delayer in coverage by the majority of homeowners insurance companies until it's corrected, and that's sort of how it's worded,
Uh-huh.
because some people will still write it, but not everyone.
Mhm.
So it'll definitely be flagged in the report as a repair that needs to be done.
Okay, so those are things that are gonna have to be corrected.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
And anything else you've spotted which is, which you really recommend to be done from a structural or a mechanical standpoint?
Eventually, I would replace the fuse box for the air compressor down the road. That's not something you have to do now.
It's more, the proper term is disconnect. So if someone comes to service the air conditioner, the compressor, the disconnect, you can pull out the fuses. It is obsolete. You should be able to just grab a handle and pull, disconnect the power to it, not touch fuses, which potentially
Okay.
get shocked.
But that's also the kind of thing where if it,
Right, that's not
why
gonna
fix
be-
it if it ain't broke?
That's just gonna be in the report, like,
I think that
maybe.
was the case with them, and that's the only hazard to someone reaching
Uh-huh.
in there, and it would be a trained person, most likely.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
Any questiones?
But there's always, when we sit down and we review the photos later, we may spot something that we didn't notice, actually the background, or just didn't notice. It happens.
Yeah, appreciate it
Okay.
very much.
Well, you should have that report out, I would think, later tonight. I would think.
Oh, yeah,
No.
I'll have it in an hour,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
plus 20,
Okay.
plus 36. something
Thanks so
like that.
much.
We tried to get it within 24 to 36 hours. We doubled up today, so it may be a slightly longer than
Yeah,
that.
we had an inspection earlier. It's been a long day.
Oh,
Usually don't do 2 a day.
Okay. Let's, did you
Thanks for
clean
doing
everything
this.
up?
Yeah, with
I did
insulation.
again, I went back by there.
You
Need to
came
do
out
this.
behind me.
Made little
So
paper
present
bills.
today were Brian and Peyton Caesar from OSI Inspections, Tony Lavallo from JD Pest Control, Sue Portal-Buyer, and Lance Lubin, Buyer's
Is that
Agent.
right on that
Yes,
I think we're gonna replace that.
the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the, we want to spring for an impact rated door. That way
Yeah.
it's much more difficult to break into that kind of door. They have to break your lock, they can't get your bus.
Yeah, that's what we did at the